Good evening, social media family. Hello, hello. Thank you for joining me on a different day today, on a Tuesday evening. Conversations with Yolonda, with a very special guest on tonight. So, as you are coming on, if you could just let me know that you're here, or if you're not able to join us when you catch the replay, we pray that something will be said that will encourage you and answer questions that you may have concerning the subject matter that we will be discussing tonight. Hello, hello. Do me a favor, like, love, and share this broadcast for me on today. Tonight, I'm getting my days mixed up. Tonight. Well, I have a very special guest. I consider her a sister and friend. Our subject matter for the month of November will be mental wellness, mental health, and wellness. And I have a very precious woman of God that will be enlightening us on to this evening in this discussion. So I want us both to introduce myself for those that may not know me. I am Yolanda Garner. I'm a wife, a mother, and self-proclaimed sister friend. I've been married for get that right, 27 years. I am a pastor and prophet at a ministry with my husband, Rivers of Living Water Ministry, Chicago, River Chicago Short, where we've been serving for 19 years. And we love to impact the lives of men, women, and children collectively, which is one of the reasons why the Lord has placed in my heart to host these Facebook Lives. I've been doing it probably for about 2 years now. And tonight we're going to talk about a very important subject matter. But I wanted my guest to introduce herself first, and then we'll jump right back into the conversation.
Okay. Hi, thank you for having me on. My name is Rosalyn Thomas. I'm a mother, a daughter. I am a counselor. I've been in the field of counseling for a number of years, and I enjoy it a lot.
Awesome. 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 Well, thank you for joining me tonight. I'm very, very excited. And I do want to say to those that will be joining us, and I'll say it periodically, we'll be on for about 30 minutes. So I'll kind of just drop it every now and then. If you have any questions that you would like for Rosalyn to respond to, you can place them in the comments or direct message me privately, and we can include that in our topics as we are progressing in this conversation on mental wellness. Well, Rafa did bring up a wonderful question about why are we, did I choose to have this subject matter at this particular month? This is my birthday month. Woo-hoo. Also. Yes, thank you. It's coming up soon, but I'll be intentionally celebrating the entire month. But mental wellness, I believe, we both believe, and you can attest to this and add on to it, is something that is, in my opinion, is not talked about openly I'm speaking from personal experience, just growing up, and it was like not a part of the normal conversation for us to talk about our mental health and or wellness. It's sort of like an embarrassment, something that you really didn't talk about, but it was like being privately embarrassed and being labeled as, the C word, if you even express that something didn't feel right, internally or mentally. So I want us to normalize being able to have these type of discussions openly, privately, of course, because of the nature of some of the topics or subjects or experiences that you may have. You may have to have private conversations, but I want it to be normalized where we can have these conversations and invite counselors on to talk about what mental health and wellness looks like, what it should feel like, what it doesn't feel like, and things that you should do about it. So that's one of the reasons I invited Rosalyn to come on tonight. She has spoken even in our ministry as well. And those sessions, I think for about a month,
Yes.
some sessions with the young adults. And I'm like, this needs to be the norm. We need to have in-services on mental health and wellness. So if you want to add to that, why we should talk about this subject matter more often than not,
Okay. Again, thank you for having me on. And as I stated, I'm a counselor. And so this topic is very, very important to me.
Yeah.
And so I enjoy talking about it. I don't think that it's talked about enough, but I do feel over the past couple of years that there has been an increase in talking about mental health, specifically during the pandemic and coming out of the pandemic. There's been a lot of talk of mental health wellness. And I think it's so important because, like you stated, we don't talk about it a lot.
Yeah.
And I don't know that that's because we don't want to. I don't know that we don't know how to start to have those conversations
Yeah.
within our families first and then within our communities. Because sometimes if you do share how you really feel, you take the chance on being labeled weird, being ridiculed, being mocked, or being rejected for stating an opinion, stating how you feel about something. And so those maybe perceptions of what can happen for expressing ourselves, I think sometimes contributes to not talking. I'd rather hold it in. I'd rather suffer in silence because I don't want what someone else has to say or to make me feel even lower maybe than I'm already feeling.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why it's so important to be able to talk about this, especially starting out with our kids at young ages, so that they can be able to express how they feel,
Yeah.
uh, giving them the courage and the boldness to be able to express what they're feeling at a time,
Mhm.
and teaching them why they're feeling it, and
Yeah.
I'm going to get into a definition in just a moment, but being able to teach them why they're feeling it. Sometimes our body responds
Mhm.
before our mind lets us know what's going on.
Mhm.
For an example, I would like to use this example of someone shared with me.
Yeah.
Um, they're, they had lost a loved one and they didn't recognize that they were on the street
Mhm.
of the funeral home. They
Mhm.
started to become uncomfortable. They started to get weird, and they couldn't place what was going on with them until they recognized, oh my God, the funeral home is there. And
Mhm.
so teaching starting at a young age to
Yeah.
understand our emotions, our feelings, being able to express how we're feeling, what's going on with us in a safe space
Yeah.
for others. So I think that's why it's so important, because the more we talk about it, the more we expressing, then it's decreasing the unhappiness,
Yeah.
decreasing the uncertainty, decreasing the suffering
Yeah.
because we're not suffering in silence.
That's so good. That's really good. I like when you everything that you shared was on point. And even starting at a young age, normalizing talking about how you really feel. You know how sometimes
Mm-hmm.
hold on to those thoughts about how we really feel, like you said, because of how we may be perceived
Mm-hmm.
by
Mm-hmm.
someone. And it's unhealthy and it can show up, I believe, in your body and headaches and
Mm-hmm.
backaches and stomach aches and the being anxious, all of those I believe are signs and triggers to say, okay, something is kind of like
Not
needs some attention, needs to be addressed, in
right.
a healthy and safe environment. And I'm a big uh, proponent of loving with intention, and I really think
Mm-hmm.
that displaying love via care,
Mm-hmm.
compassion, and concern,
Mm-hmm.
the intention of seeing our children, brothers, sisters, family member healed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm concerned about you. Sometimes
Yes.
we see something, but we don't say something
Yes.
for fear of judgment, even judging, okay, I identified something in you, so now, that may trigger you to not come around me or talk to
Yes.
me again, but I believe sometimes when people on the outside looking in,
Mm-hmm.
some that are closest to you can identify that something is a little different, So I
Mm-hmm.
really wanna talk about what and not getting ahead of ourselves. If you have something you wanna say in regards to that, because sometimes we don't know that something is wrong, or I don't want to say wrong, but something is a little off, or we can think something is wrong. I'm trying to walk on eggshells with even saying certain words, but
Mhm.
just having the freedom to say if something is wrong, something is wrong. What we do.
Mhm. And I hear you, but I think that's when it goes back to where we go to our safe space
Yeah.
and the people that we feel safe with to be able to express our how we truly feel.
Yeah.
And going back to something that you said, which encompasses the definition, which I'll read now.
Okay.
The definition World Health Organization has is a state of well-being in which the individual realizes his or her own abilities, can
Mm,
cope with the normal stresses of life, and
okay.
can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. And
Mm,
so when I read that definition, for me, that states everything about me, the totality of who I am.
that's
And
good.
I especially like the first part of that, being able to recognize my own abilities.
Yeah.
And so when we go back to speaking at a young age, learning this at a young age,
Uh-huh.
so we don't fear that rejection. So we don't fear that stigma of somebody has something to say about me because I'm expressing myself or
Yeah.
expressing myself.
Yeah.
And so I think with that definition, and taking that to our own personal lives
Mhm.
and being honest with ourselves. I think sometimes when we're feeling a certain way, when our body is responding in a physical way,
Mhm.
stop to get in touch with, and this is a part of mental wellness,
Yeah.
when we're feeling a certain way, being able to stop and get in touch with that. Why am I feeling like this?
Yeah.
What's going on in my life that's causing me to have a physical reaction? What am I
Mm,
either avoiding? What am I not dealing with?
yeah.
And then we start learning how to become in touch with ourselves,
Yeah.
being in touch with who I am, and
Mm,
being truthful with myself as
yeah.
an individual as to what's going on. Um,
Mhm.
and I believe that starts to promote mental wellness within us as individuals. And
Okay.
then there are other things that we can do that can contribute to our promotion of mental wellness.
Yeah.
But I firmly believe that it does start at a young age, teaching our children how does that feel,
Mm,
and not just we're familiar with angry, sad, unhappy, mad, something like that.
yeah.
But there's a lot of circle wheels that has so many different descriptive,
Yeah.
adjective emotions and feelings, and teaching our children, how do you feel?
Mm,
Not shaming them, not being angry with them.
yeah.
Um, it's something that I used to do with my daughter when she was in high school. Uh,
Okay.
and we would have a conversation. I
Mm,
would tell her there were times where talk freely.
yeah.
Nothing you say is going to cause a punishment, anything. Just give it to me.
Yeah.
I
And you meant
need,
that, right? And you meant that.
I meant
How
that.
we say that to kind of get information out of our kids. So you weren't trying to get it to use it against her. That was a genuine
No,
way for
not trying to
teaching.
use it against her at all, but
Okay.
teaching her, express yourself. Don't
Yeah.
hold it in.
Yeah.
Don't hold it in for fear of, well, I'm going to get in trouble because of this. But
Right.
learn how to express yourself. Use your words,
Yeah.
because being silent, you suffer. Nobody knows what's
Mm,
going on. Being
mm,
silent, you're being tortured.
yeah.
No one knows what's going on. So being able to express
Mhm.
how you feel, learning different descriptive words to
Yeah.
match your mood, learning it's okay that
Mhm.
I'm feeling this way. It's okay that I'm not okay right now. It's
Mhm.
okay. Getting in touch with who you are. And I think for me personally, when I read that definition, that's what I hear. Getting in touch with who I am,
Mhm.
truly and personally, being honest with myself. And for me, that starts the journey of mental wellness. And that starts the journey of being able to express myself unapologetically. Now, I'm not going to be rude and ignorant, but just being able to express myself unapologetically. So that's what that definition, and that's why I love that definition. That very first sentence, recognizing my own abilities. Now
Yeah.
I'm learning to express myself.
Yeah.
Now I'm learning how to cope with normal stressors of life.
Mhm.
And that normal stressors of life, things happen
Yeah.
as a part of life.
Yeah. Yeah.
learning how to be able to deal with that. And so that's why that definition is so special to me.
Mhm.
And I just think that us learning and continuing to start that conversation there,
Yeah.
start that conversation with getting in touch with who we are
Mhm.
and being honest so that we can realize our potential and our capabilities.
That's good. And maybe after the broadcast, if someone didn't capture what you said, you can maybe type it in the comments if you don't mind. What
Okay.
the definition was. And there's so many things
Sure.
that you said, and I was trying to recall both of them. But when you talked about um, speaking with a child, making them comfortable enough to share their true emotions. So, and I kind of think back to a session my husband hosted at a school that we were having church in, and they hadn't had anything like that before. And growing up in the community, I remember very well that that was not something that was introduced to us
Mhm.
in our grammar schools or elementary school, high school.
Mhm.
College, I believe, is a little bit different, but even in the community and the things that, um, we just had to kind of deal with, things that we saw, there wasn't anybody that came along and said, okay, we want to come in and do a 6-week session on mental health and wellness. So, how do we make those resources available to um, schools or communities that may not offer that or may not think that it's important, and then you become a full grown adult, and then all of the things that did never got addressed when you were a child, and it was like, okay, there's a reaction, and some people think, okay, they just like woke up this way and they're doing whatever type of behavior, activities, or whatever. And it just didn't happen overnight. I guess that's my point. Like, how do we get this information across at a young age? And even for parents, because as you were speaking about a parent asking the child and being able to hear that
Mhm.
child's truth. So
Mhm.
it sounds like both of us need to go through some type of uh,
Yeah.
I don't know what they call these classes. I know when you go like in the certain communities, they'll have like YMCA and certain
Yeah.
classes that are available, or at the hospital they'll have certain sessions that are available. So something like that, I think we need to be taught on
Absolutely.
how to what questions to ask.
Mhm.
And when we do hear if a child tells you something, you may be like, a 5 or 6 year old, how in
Mhm.
the world, are they dealing with this? But and
Mhm.
not, not to soften the blow of being thought of hearing things that may come across as like disheartening, if you say, tell me how you really feel.
Mhm.
And they may tell you.
Yeah.
So just being um like educated enough, to know what to say, how to say it, when to say it. And then once you get that information, what's next?
Mhm.
Once a child or an adult said that I'm having these thoughts, I'm having these feelings,
Mhm.
what happens after that?
So after whoever is able to express themselves and say that they're having those, then it goes into, do you need to seek professional help? Or
Okay.
are there things in your personal life that you can alter that will help in your mood, will help in your response?
Yeah.
Because also included in that, in the definition and just the breakdown of it, it's our mental wellness is our emotional state, how we think and feel, how we respond, how we act, how we relate to others. And so when we think about having all of that together, and then someone sits down and says, I'm I'm not okay. I keep snapping at my spouse. I keep snapping at work. I keep doing this. I don't know how to handle this. I think when we sit down and figure out, is it me and some things that I can change? Do I need to get more sleep? You
Okay.
know, you and I kind of chuckle with that because sometimes when I see kids and they're kind of just everywhere,
Yeah.
and we think, oh, maybe it's a behavioral problem. Are they tired?
Okay.
So it's just certain things being able to still check in with us. What
Okay.
are the things that I can do that can cause me to be in a state of mental wellness? Do I
Yeah.
need professional help? Do I need medication?
Yeah.
Are there things that I need to do in my personal life? Relaxation,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, taking a walk, anything that can promote your wellness. And
Mhm.
so after you've expressed, I need some help, or you've shared that, and
Yes.
you've taken inventory in your life, and you've done things that continuously promote your mental wellness, but you still feel a little off, then
Yeah.
perhaps that's when you can seek, and I don't mean to, no offense with the little off, but just not yourself fully,
Yeah.
then perhaps you can seek professional help.
Mhm.
And then you and your counselor being able to process what you're dealing with, and you still being able to express your emotions
Mhm.
and talk
Yeah.
about what's going on.
Yeah, that's really good. And don't forget, social media family, if you have any questions for Rosalyn before we are off of our live tonight, feel free to put them in the comments, or you can direct message me personally, even if you catch the replay and see it later. We would love to be able to answer that question. When you talked about like the professional help, I always say, where would you look to for resources like that? How
Well,
do mhm.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's good. Yeah, like where do you? Because yeah, because you're in that field. Like, how
Mhm.
do you start searching on the internet? Do you go for recommendations? Do you look to your church community? Like,
I, I think all of those are good resources and good starting points. One starting point, I do say, the back of your insurance card to
okay,
find out who's in your network.
yeah,
If Find out who's available in your network to be able to work with you.
okay,
You can also reach out to your church to see if they have recommendations. I think all of those are good starting points.
okay,
But I do think starting with the insurance and finding out who is in your network and where you can go to seek help. And then, of course, there are so many ads. Like I shared earlier, I see so many ads and commercials where they're posting about where you can go to find clinicians to work with you. But I definitely think I'd start with insurance.
okay. And how do you know if you can answer that question tonight? Like, the difference between the psychology or psychologist, psychiatrist.
Hmm.
How do you
Hmm.
know what to even look for based upon um, yeah, how you feeling, or people may say something that's a little different about you, or just that that you feel overwhelmed, or you've experienced um, a traumatic event or
Hmm.
episode, or something happened at the job, or marital, you've gone through a divorce, or a loss of a spouse, family member. I do hear counseling is okay, insurance, and let's talk small groups as well. Some of the comments that are in
Oh, yes.
the chat section. So, like, how do you know what type of doctor to look for, or will that information be on the back of your insurance card?
Yeah, so that typically you would, all of that information is when you call the line, they'll
Okay.
be able to explain where your starting point is, or if you need a referral for a psychiatrist, or if you need a referral for a psychologist,
Okay.
or starting with a clinician. Sometimes people start working with a mental health therapist. That's their starting point, because I don't know that initially going in, oh my God, I need this, that, and the other. But if
Mm.
you start with maybe a therapist, and then in working with your clinician,
Yeah.
you both recognize, oh my goodness, I need more. So in that sense, your therapist say, okay, if you need medication, then I can give you a referral for a psychiatrist to be able to prescribe and to work in tandem with me and you to be able to get you to the place that you're pleased at and your mental wellness. So
Okay.
I think that's still the starting point, calling the insurance, and then finding out, where do I start? I want to seek professional help, and I'd like to see a therapist, and
Okay.
then going from there.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. I did have a question, but I was looking at the comments trying to. I do like she said, let's talk small groups. So what are your thoughts about small groups having, like I said, my husband, Apostle Stephen, he had invited a psychiatrist, I believe, a doctor in to talk to a group of young people. And it was a very, I believe, healthy conversation, but I could tell that some of the young people were restrictive, some felt embarrassed. So, what is your take on that? Small groups, bringing everybody together to talk versus a one-on-one conversation.
Me personally, I like groups. I
Okay.
do
Okay.
enjoy groups. I do think groups are appropriate as well as the individual
Yeah.
part. But within a group, there's initially the consistency of a group
Okay.
creates that trust, creates that sense of belonging, creates that sense of family,
Absolutely.
creates security. It creates a lot of things that maybe an individual is lacking. So
Okay.
as it consistently progresses, then the individuals that maybe were restrictive and reluctant to share would be willing to share a little bit more because of the consistency of it being a safe space for them.
Yeah.
So I really do enjoy groups. I think they are beneficial. I
Okay.
think that individuals within the group learn from other individuals within a group. I think it's a growing, a challenging, and encouraging space. So I really, really enjoy groups.
Okay. That's good. I think I may have to invite someone on that's in our comments. Deaconess Nancy.
Oh, absolutely.
Listen, drop it because we are going to have a guest speaker or speakers.
Yes.
Rob will be with us the entire time. So I will be following up with you, Deaconess
Yes.
Nancy. And someone mentioned they went to a grief group
Hmm.
and they liked it. I was like, okay.
Yeah. I see that.
Oh gosh, we can definitely, talk about a lot of things, and yeah, because I'm familiar with attending a
Hmm.
grief support group as
Hmm.
well, and there's a lot of emotions that come as a result of being a part of an open space
Hmm.
like that, and it was it was different for me to be able to say, I need a little support.
Hmm.
Well,
Hmm. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
they can work well for those that are comfortable in speaking in
Mhm.
that type of environment because you can learn from others as well. I think Pastor Anderson on here. Any questions? If anybody has any questions, I could direct that to Sister Rosalyn
Mm.
as well. That she likes the groups discussion, and I would really love to see something directed towards like the younger generation populace, the 4, 5, 6 year olds, like something put together. Because I mean, I haven't not saying that it's not done, but in my immediate sphere, I have not heard of anything like
Mhm.
that. And then when they become teenagers, you
Mhm.
try to deal with something.
Yes.
Some of the things that go unnoticed,
Mhm.
think, oh, they're just a child. They're just,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
having
Yep.
tantrums and falling out on the floor and saying no and wanting to hit you. And you're like, you think it's cute and funny at when they're like 2, 3, and 4. And then if they become teenagers,
Mhm.
you want to,
So funny.
right? It's not funny anymore.
Anymore.
Oh gosh. So it's like the sooner, the better,
Mhm.
dealing uh,
Absolutely.
with those things that we see could be potential areas that need some immediate attention and not being ashamed of having those conversations because
Right.
it's just not something now that I'm older, it's like let's normalize it. Let's talk
Yeah.
about it. I find myself being extra concerned even about, my children, that's, and just like what's going on and getting into their uh thoughts and lives and
Mhm.
asking specific questions and being more compassionate than I was many years ago. I was like not patient and I would say, oh, tell me whatever is going on, and to respond in a particular way, but I don't think that that was believed.
Okay.
Found out later, my child did not believe me, but said it from a place I thought of wanting to make sure that they were okay. That's why I said I think it's training for parents.
Oh,
They hear
absolutely.
things, it's definitely needed,
Mhm.
well, just like going to, I don't know if it's counseling or like actual curriculum that could be put together on how to entreat your child, how to talk to your child, and how to ask the right questions, and when to reach out for help. So
Yes.
this is a wonderful topic of discussion. And like you said, the pandemic did introduce us to a
Mhm.
whole lot of things that
Mhm.
we probably weren't ready for.
Right.
I
Right.
think it really has.
And
And
I do agree. There are some parenting classes. You do have to, again, more than likely with insurance,
yeah,
just to be able to assist in that. But absolutely, I
yeah,
think this is very needed, and I think you asked how we can start in those areas.
yeah,
Um, Willing establishments, being willing to let counselors, clinicians come in and maybe volunteer their time
I
to
like
talk
that.
to kids, volunteer their time to go to schools, to go to different churches or whatever the establishment is. And
Yeah,
maybe, just to be able to help them be able to express themselves before they're bottled up and don't know how.
yeah.
Because I don't know that a lot of, people that don't know how to communicate. Well, I take that back. I'll use myself.
Okay.
Um, Growing up, when I'm at, what's wrong? Nothing.
Hmm.
Because I didn't have the language to be able to express what was really going on with me.
Wow.
I had only a few angry, sad, mad, whatever to be able to say. And if I'm none of those, then I
Yeah,
don't have the language to be able to say, I'm feeling very vulnerable. I'm feeling very scared right now. I'm
yeah,
nervous about this. I didn't have the language to say. And
yeah.
so instead, I became angry. And what's wrong? Nothing. So being able to express ourselves, being able to teach our young people, and that's why the wheel, I have one, adjectives to be able to express
Yeah.
different words to be able to express what I'm trying to say. So I think maybe starting there, willing establishments, willing for people to be able to go in and work with young people and
Mm,
these kids to be able to talk. And then this is the best part. When they
mm,
start expressing themselves, they don't get in trouble for telling us how they feel. Because that's a
mm.
huge fear.
Oh, that's heavy. That's heavy.
It's a huge
That's
fear.
heavy.
I mean, in all honesty, being truthful, we don't want to hear it as parents, but at the same time, this is a little person that's coming to you that needs help,
Mm,
that needs you to be in that vulnerable space with them as
yeah,
they're vulnerable. They don't need the rage and the anger, and you shouldn't have. Maybe I need you to be vulnerable with me. Maybe I need some tears with me. And that humanizes us as a parent and not this big scary person. And
right.
and then it encourages conversation. It
Hmm.
encourages learning words to be able to know how to express yourself. It
Yeah,
encourages confidence, boldness in an individual
yeah,
to know who you are, what you like and what you don't, and know that I have the freedom to be able to say this without repercussion.
yeah, yeah. It sounds, I just kept hearing being intentional
Yes.
about the well-being of that child or
Mhm.
that family member, that loved one. It's like digressing a little bit, like not saying, "You don't talk to me," because that was my thing.
Okay.
My husband was a little bit more receptive to them saying how they really feel, because I'm like, you were raised, you don't talk back.
No.
So he was encouraging them to to say
Mhm.
how they feel. I was like, I ain't ready for that. But I'm ready in Jesus' name, to hear how they really and not take it personal, because sometimes you personalize it thinking, oh, I was a bad parent. I didn't go to enough games, and that may be true. I didn't
Mhm.
attend enough assemblies. That part might be true too. I did come to, did show up when they wanted me to show up. So just not it's taking it so personal when you hear
Exactly.
that
Yep.
information. I think we need to be taught that as well, to not be so quick to respond, but to be, someone said, Deacon Sandy said, an active
Listener.
listener,
Yep.
and just waiting for those prompts to, okay, should I speak now? Should I not speak? Especially if you want to be a resolver, if you got the answers and you just, you want to hurry up and fix it. So you
Mhm.
want to
Yes.
give them
Yes.
response versus, like you said, just being vulnerable,
Mhm.
sitting with them,
Mhm.
sometimes a hug,
Yes.
just like the
Mhm.
quality time, putting the phone down, turning the
Mhm.
TV, not
Yeah.
not putting the mute button on, but turning the television off.
Mhm.
Give them
Mhm.
that eye-to-eye contact, letting them know I'm available whenever you need me,
Yes. Mhm.
and mean that,
Yes. Yes.
mean that. If you say that you can talk up to me about anything, I'm available whenever.
Mhm.
Actually mean
Yeah.
that.
Yes.
We can say it because it sounds good, but then you have to put the work in, and
Mhm.
that takes some, I think, humility as well.
Yes.
Sit there and carve
Absolutely.
time out of your day for the
Absolutely.
well-being of someone else. That's major to me. That's really major.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Agree
Mhm. I
100%.
like this response right here.
Okay.
Really young age, and maybe Sister Rosalyn, well, Rosalyn would write a curriculum or something, or a book. Start some classes and sessions for the well. Again, if you have any questions before we jump off of here, please drop them in the comments, or if it's personal, you can direct message me, and I'll
Mhm.
make sure we include it because Rosalind will be with me for the month of the entire month, and I do have another guest that will be joining me. I'll mention that to you, Rosalind, and possibly Deaconess Nancy as well.
Yes.
I believe she had some experience with counseling or social work as well. I don't think we could. This is we can't talk enough about it. There's
Right.
no way, and
Right.
I think it needs to be on the tip of our tongues frequently because we sometimes we can see a child like explode and
Yes.
want to label them right
Yeah.
away when you don't even know their story.
Mhm.
There are a lot of things that people
Yes.
experience that we have no clue that
Yep.
they have gone through or trying to come out of, and we just see the cause and effect of that. But again, if we could get in there as soon as possible, to gain access like immediately, and we can start in our home and
Yeah.
with the children,
Absolutely.
nieces and nephews, and
Mhm.
aunts and uncles. I think the sooner we start, the better off things can be. I have some other topics, but I think maybe later on because sometimes one of the things I wanted to maybe talk about, if I don't know if we talk about it offline to see if we should even talk about, but when it becomes so overwhelming to
Mhm.
a person and they feel like, just handling things are different in an unhealthy way,
Yeah.
like, yeah, just how do you,
Yeah,
just,
I think that's also an important part of mental wellness
yeah,
because the reality of it is not everyone knows how to handle conflict or stresses of life in a healthy way. And
yeah,
so, especially if they've never been taught. And so, if you've only seen negative responses to stress, if you've only seen unhealthy responses to different things that happen,
yeah,
then that's what you may mimic.
mhm,
So I think that is a part of talking about mental health wellness, the
yeah,
reality that sometimes we don't make the healthiest choice when we're experiencing stress, when we're
uh,
experiencing heaviness and feeling overwhelmed. And it goes back to when those feelings of overwhelming come and the thought is a response in an unhealthy way,
yeah,
then at that time, is this the time for me to seek professional help?
okay,
Because what's going on with me that these are consistently my thoughts, these are consistently my behaviors.
yeah,
If that's the case, then that's when professional help may need to be sought out.
okay. Yeah,
Mhm.
and I was thinking about coping. So, like coping mechanism. So even when the teachings and trainings, or your teachings and trainings, or if it's in schools, community groups, YMCA's, like teaching, or how important are coping skills? Is there a such thing as coping skills? Do you think that uh, giving a person coping skills get to the root of the issue?
Well, that's kind of two separate. At
Okay,
first, absolutely, there are coping skills.
okay, okay.
100%. There's so many coping skills.
Yeah,
And the purpose of the coping skill
yeah.
is to be able to help you when you start to slide down. For example, well, I won't give that example, but the purpose of the coping skill is to be able to help you to lift up your mood, to brighten your spirit, to
Okay.
get you out of where you were. So there are tools and techniques to be able to assist you more. more than it is to get to the root of a situation. You know, when you're conversing, then you're getting to the root of it. But when you're by yourself, that's when you employ coping skills. When, you know, you're feeling anxious in a large crowd, then maybe you can employ a coping skill.
Okay.
When you have depressive feelings, then you could employ a coping skill to be able to assist you in those moments. So absolutely, there
Okay.
are coping skills. So many of them. I love them.
Can you give me one or two? Can you share
Music.
maybe one or two coping skills?
Yep, music,
Okay.
going
Okay.
for walks,
Okay.
deep breathing. I know the weather is changing, so getting out going for a walk may not be feasible, but
Yeah.
some form of exercise, uh,
Okay.
deep breathing, those are a few.
Yeah.
Um, and deep breathing, that's one that I've absolutely come to love because it absolutely works.
Yeah.
And yes, meditation. Another one, another one that I absolutely love because it gives you the opportunity to sit, to be still, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are a lot of coping skills, and I think that each individual has
Mhm.
to learn coping skills for themselves because maybe
That's
music
good.
may not be beneficial to someone else, but
Okay.
again, being in touch with who we are and what do I like, what makes me
Like
feel
that.
good, what's healthy
Mhm.
for me to keep my spirit lifted. And so I think finding out, being in touch with us, finding out who we are and what we like.
Yeah. That's
Mhm,
so good. And
mhm,
that those are great, all great responses and coping mechanisms. Some that I incorporate in my own life, and I'll use a driving experience, what
mhm,
they consider to be road rage. I don't consider myself a road rage person, and this is the mental wellness stuff in action.
mhm,
Sometimes you get a little agitated behind the wheel, but I
mhm,
had to like get a coping skill. I had to start speaking against the thought that I had, to
okay.
be angry
Mhm,
with that person.
mhm,
Ugh, it's like, okay, calm down, Yolanda. So
mhm.
just across the board, because it
Yes.
can flare up at any time,
Mhm,
these
mhm,
situations and circumstances, when you're at your
mhm.
child's school, uh,
Yes.
when you in the community, when you're behind the steering wheel,
Yes.
you're in a, religious environment.
Mhm, mhm.
It can be true. There are all types of environments where any of
Absolutely.
us can be
Yep.
triggered. Baseball games.
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah, it can.
And so that's why it's so important to be able to
Or
be
games
in
in
touch.
general, sports events, I
Exactly.
say.
Absolutely in touch with ourselves and being able to recognize what's going on in that moment. Why am I feeling like this? Or and being able to employ a coping skill. And Sister Nancy, she said, not in a rush, slow down. And that is so true. I
Yeah.
wish she was on right now.
And like normalize, like what's normal behavior, because sometimes people think this is who I am.
Yeah.
I'm fly off the lid. I say what I want to say, when I want to say it, how I want to say it, to who I want to say it, and then with our children, this is like that was me. I didn't want them to talk the way I was talking.
Uh-huh.
Even though I'm like, I'm the parent,
Mhm.
and I use this. I'm gonna maybe close on this and ask Rosalyn to share something else. But an example was I saw my daughter responding kind of like sassy to someone. And
Mhm.
I'm like, Miss Ma'am, you did not have to, because it's all across the board when you're out in public, mental wellness, the way that you treat people is,
Mhm.
I believe, is a reflection of sometimes of what's going on internally or something you
Mhm.
observed,
Mhm. Mhm.
which is what she said. Mom, you act the same way. And I was like, I was clutching my pearls. I was like, no, that's how I look. And it was like a reflection of me. And that was not a good look. Why did I feel like I had to be aggressive to someone
Mhm.
that's trying to help me out?
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's interesting when you see
Yeah.
yourself, in real time, and then
Yeah.
that helped me
Yeah.
not be so aggressive or sharp, not with people that are trying to help me, or if I'm out and about,
Okay.
don't do that.
Mhm. You see, don't do that.
Don't be like that. That's not a good look. And
Mm,
what's going on in your life? Are you tired,
right.
impatient,
Mhm. Mhm.
frustrated?
Yep.
Meditate, breathe in, breathe out, calm down.
Mhm.
I had to do the countdown from
Yep.
100.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
I had to do count, turn some music on, all
Yep.
of that, and
Yep.
change the way. my perception about something. Sometimes that's a whole other conversation. The way that we perceive something, sometimes, it causes us to form a mental, I think, a stronghold, and then we're reacting out of what we perceive to be
Yes.
a reality, and it
Mhm.
really wasn't. It was just your perception
Yep.
of something. So this was so good, so
Yes.
good, so good.
Yes.
Anything you want to say in closing, Rosalyn?
Um, Now, just to reiterate, just about in terms of mental wellness, just
Okay.
us doing check-ins with ourselves,
Yeah.
and how we truly feel, check-ins with what's going on around us, um,
Okay.
check-ins to see, are we at the place where maybe we need professional help?
Okay.
No judgment, but just honestly, and I heard this so much, to the point where I actually hated it,
Okay.
but I understand it and I love it now. But just because I heard it so much, but just being patient with ourselves and
Mhm.
actually learning about ourselves and who we are.
Okay.
And I think that starts, opens up the door, helps continuation, all of that with our mental health journey.
Okay. And
Hmm.
so many things I'm thinking of now. It's like, oh my, accountability too. Like how
Hmm.
important is,
Hmm.
okay, you're getting some help, but even presenting that to someone, okay, but that's probably another conversation because I'm going into so much other stuff, but just like making sure like you're progressing. You know what I'm saying? You're getting help, but what are you doing with the information when you bring it back? Are you actually incorporating it into your life as well, and having somebody to kind of keep you accountable or just support, or the support. I don't want to make it seem like it's like rough and tough, but someone that you can lean on in those difficult moments, and the times that you are allowing some things to be worked in you and out of you at the same time. So such a
Absolutely.
good conversation, and I'm looking forward, oh my goodness, to the next one
Hmm.
and
Me
invite
too.
guests
Yeah.
on. So thank you for taking the time out, Rosalyn, to be
Thank
with
you for
me
inviting me.
tonight. Yay! So good. And for the commentary, Deaconess Nancy. Woo, woo.
Thank you. Woohoo.
I appreciate that so much. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments or direct message them, or we'll just kind of, as we were talking, I had some questions that kind of popped up. So I kind of put you on the spot. If I
That's
did, pardon me for that.
okay. I'm
You were inspiring me. Your comments was kind of triggering some thoughts as well. So, if nothing further, I kind of wanted to, maybe we can pray next time. Are you feeling like you want to say a prayer tonight, or you want to wait and hold that for another time?
We can wait.
Okay. Okay. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, social media family, for joining us tonight. Pray that you were blessed, encouraged, and we're going to normalize having these discussions openly and starting with our young people. And we're going to not wait, but we're looking forward to when Rosalind writes her book or curriculum, something that we can draw from, because there's a well of wisdom that flows out of her. And I'm so blessed. Um, Privileged and honored to have her as a part of our lives and in the body of Christ and River. So until next time, we're going to be on a different time next week, different day, Wednesday evening, because next Tuesday is my birthday. So hopefully I'll be out celebrating. I'm weird. So we'll see you on Wednesday, and then after that, it'll be Tuesday moving forward around the same time. So have a wonderful evening. God bless everyone, and we will see you next